Good evening. Welcome to the forum for Jerome Council Candidates on the August 2nd primary election ballot. This forum is hosted by the League of Women Voters of Northern Arizona. I am Gail DeGotti, a member of the League of Women Voters and the moderator for this forum. The forum is videotaped by Verde Valley TV for viewing on Cable 1, Channel 56, Suddenlink Channel 2, and Verde Valley TV on YouTube. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League of Women Voters is fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and in practice. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates and to learn why each of them is running for town council. It is also an opportunity for candidates to respond to questions that have been submitted by voters to the League of Women Voters in advance of this forum. The goal here this evening is fairness, civility, and engagement. Our timekeeper, Mary Gassaway, will help us keep on track and on time. She has several signs: a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. She will raise the 1-minute sign and then the 30-second sign to let you know how much time you have remaining. She will raise the stop sign to signal to you to complete your sentence. The format of this forum is in 3 parts. Part 1 is opening remarks. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce himself or herself, and then each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer the question posed by the League of Women Voters, which you received in advance of tonight's forum. Part 2 will be questions that have been submitted by voters. Candidates will be given 2 minutes to answer the question, depending on the time period or the number of issues we hope to cover this evening. As moderator, I may also allow rebuttal time to the question for each candidate. Again, I may allow. It's the prerogative of the moderator. Part 3 is closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to share final remarks on why he or she wants to serve on the Jerome Town Council. There are several guidelines we will follow this evening. The first one: my role as moderator is to manage the forum fairly for all candidates while keeping the discussion moving. The order of speaking by candidates has been determined prior to the start of the forum. Number 2, candidates are to be respectful of each other's points of view. Speak your mind freely and do not engage in personal attacks. Candidates may not interrupt one another, and I will moderate on that point. Number 3, time limits on responses to questions will be observed strictly. My job is to enforce the time limits. And finally, should candidates not observe these guidelines, as your moderator, I have the responsibility to adjourn the forum, and I'm assuming I won't have to do that. So let's move now to the introduction of candidates for the Jerome Town Council. The candidates are here this evening. They are Alex Barber, Jack Dillenberg, Sage Harvey, Jane Moore, Charles Romberger, Sonia Sheffield, and 2 candidates who have submitted statements who are not able to be here this evening, Stephen Schultz and Susan Gregory, and a write-in candidate, Joe Lazzaro. Candidates have 2 minutes each to share why they are running for Jerome Town Council, their qualifications and skills for the position. So let's begin with Alex Barber, who drew the straw for the first spot.
Good evening, everyone. I am Christina Alex Barber, born here in Jerome, Arizona. I have been on the council for 4 terms. This will be my 5th term. As a council member for the last 4 terms, we have gotten a lot of things done in this town, lots of infrastructure, added a paved parking to help in with our roads and also infrastructure. So as far as being on the Jerome Town Council, I take the job very seriously. I do my homework. I care about this town. I've lived here my whole life. I will be celebrating my half-century here in Jerome this year. And if you re-elect me, I will do my job to continue to keep Jerome moving forward, but not forgetting about the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Second, let's hear from Jack Dillinger. Dillenberg, excuse me.
You're not the first to make that mistake, I'll tell you that. It's been an interesting and wonderful opportunity for me to serve on this town council for these past few years, and during these last 2 years to serve as the mayor of Jerome. You know, I've been coming to Jerome for over 20 years. My wife and I got married up here. We were lucky to find a lovely home. She's a retired public school teacher doing her clay work. For me, I've been a public health person for over 50 years. Many of you that have lived in Arizona for a long time may remember I was the health secretary when Fife Stymington was governor. I was director of the state health department, had 2,400 employees, $600 million budget for 4 years, and did some pretty innovative things I was very honored to be able to do for the citizens of Arizona. Being here was another great honor for me, and it continues to be. The people I work with, my council members, are wonderful, caring, and honest, and make a difference. So I'm excited about the opportunity to continue. For those of you who thought I wasn't running, that's a mistake. I am. I love what I do. I'm honored by the opportunity to be able to serve the citizens of Jerome and to be a positive influence here, bringing together some of my public health experience, my leadership experience, and the opportunity to network with the people I've met over the years and get them engaged in Jerome to help us with our issues, whether they be affordable housing, infrastructure, or health. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to continuing this wonderful work. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Jack. Let's turn now to write-in candidate Joe Lazzaro.
Hi, I'm Joe Lazzaro. I was born August 21st, 1953 at 8:06 p.m. in Hollywood, California. My mother was 19-year-old actress Faye Spain. My father was 22-year-old writer John Falvo. I grew up in Southern California, also in Italy, Brazil, and New York briefly with my mother's career. I arrived in Jerome in 1983, lived in the Gulch, and did construction in the Valley. Homes, Multis, Daniel Bright Elementary. I fell in love with a local beauty, and by 1985, we had a baby boy and 3 parcels in Jerome. 37 years later, my son is a Jerome firefighter. His mother lives in Clarkdale, and I'm still living in the duplex the seller only wanted $10,000 for. In the early 90s, I was on the town council for 1 term. I helped get our wastewater up to EPA spec. Later, I petitioned the town with 100 Jeroman signatures. We wanted a moratorium on new builds until additional storage tanks were put in. That was in the 90s. Our water comes from 12 springs, feeding the 2 tanks high above the pit. Every gallon arrives by gravity that we must regulate. The pressure is very high. Rain and snow recharge the approximate 10 square miles of watershed above town. That puts us at greater risk of running dry. We can't drill deeper wells like Cottonwood and Clarkdale. I would appreciate your vote tonight, as I would continue the efforts to get more storage tanks in Jerome and make the maximum storage capacity when flows are high, similar to spring runoff. Thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you. Sonia Sheffield.
That's me. I was born and bred in North Carolina. I started coming to Arizona in 2009. I lived and worked at the Grand Canyon. I just waited tables in one of the restaurants there. Did that back and forth for a couple of years. Went back to North Carolina. Ended up kind of there, stuck there for a few years. Really missed being on this side of the country. The Southeast and the Southwest are strikingly different. And loaded up my car in 2014 with the things I thought I needed. My dog, had a 6-month lease at an apartment down in Cottonwood and $1,500. Figured I could make my way with 20 plus years of restaurant experience. 2 weeks later, I had a job at the Mile High where I worked until it was sold and then closed for renovations. The entire time I was working at the Mile High, I was trying to put the word out. I want to live in Jerome. If there's a place available, let me know. The response I got more than once was that it wasn't about whether I wanted to live in Jerome. It was about whether or not Jerome wanted me to be here. 4 days before I had to be out of my apartment, I secured a place in town. I've been here ever since. I do consider it home. I consider myself part of the working class in a way. I'm in town almost every day for business or for pleasure, sometimes both. I do believe in work hard, play hard. I want to continue to stay here. I want to have a future here. It seems like that may be a little bit of a challenge as things change. And that's why I want to run for council. I just want to keep things good for people, offering my services to help.
Thank you. Charles Romberger.
Chuck Romberger. I was born 1961 at Misawa Air Force Base, Japan, to a captain in the Air Force at the time, later colonel. Grew up most of the time here in Arizona. We were at Luke and Williams Air Force Base, so got to live in Tempe and Mesa and Chandler and Gilbert and pretty much all around the area. Went to NAU for my college, got an engineering degree there, worked my way through school at Alpine Pizza and Domino's Pizza, cooking and delivering and doing those kind of general things. Ran away then to Silicon Valley after career here running the first IBM PC clone store in Flagstaff. At that point, I had a 30-year career making video games and doing engineering in Silicon Valley. And about 6 years ago, came back to take care of my parents in Payson, which was a difficult time, but we ended up about 4 years ago coming to Jerome, had visited here over the 60s and 70s, and bought House of Joy and have Mimi's next door and a house on the hill here. Been participating in the Planning and Zoning Commission, and my wife's on DRB, and generally have been part of the community here. And now I'm running for council.
Thank you. Sage Harvey.
I was born and raised in Jerome. I am married to my husband of 26 years and have 2 sons. I am the former vice mayor and current council member for the town of Jerome. I am proud of this council and believe that it has made a lot of progress in the last 4 years. In those 4 years, we have purchased the sliding jail property back from the Jerome Historical Society. We have purchased 2 new patrol cars and budgeted for a 3rd for PD. We have purchased a water truck and have budgeted for a new flatbed and garbage truck for the Public Works. We installed parking kiosks that have paid for themselves and have been a tremendous source of income. For fiscal year 2021, we budgeted $150,000 and grossed almost $241,000, transferring $60,000 to infrastructure and carrying $117,000 over to the 21-22 budget. For fiscal year 21-22, we budgeted an income of $250,000 from parking and grossed over $335,000, transferring $150,000 to the infrastructure, purchasing a UTV for the parking attendant and carrying another $75,000 over to this fiscal year. We replaced and added air conditioning units in the Civic Center, which houses Town Hall, the library, and the Humane Society. Much needed repairs to the springs, flumes, and replacement of all water line regulator boxes, as well as many water lines. We have budgeted to engineer a new water tank, as well as refurbishing the second tank. We have funded and budgeted general sewer infrastructure maintenance, as well as repairs to problematic sewer lines. We have budgeted, approved, and are proceeding with the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. We have received and matched funds for repairs and upgrades to water lines, hydrants, and drainage improvements to Dundee, Deception Gulch, and Holly Avenue that are currently underway. We have received and matched funding for utility and road repairs on Center Avenue. We excruciatingly started addressing fair water rates. We continue to try to address affordable housing by continuing to fund the renovation of the Hotel Jerome, which has had the windows replaced, lead and asbestos abatement, and plans are currently being drawn for apartments, as well as purchasing a residence.
Thank you, Sage.
A residence, can I finish, please? As well as purchasing a residence for town of employee housing. Much help in addressing affordable housing will hopefully come with a new governor and the repeal of SB 1350.
Thank you, Sage. You can pick up where you left off in that subsequent question.
I got most of it.
And finally, Jane Moore.
I timed myself at home. She didn't give me the
Hi,
right time.
I'm Jane Moore. I've lived in Jerome for 50 years as a potter and an artist. I've worked at Made in Jerome Pottery for 40 years. I've been volunteering for the town since 1975 when I helped form the Jerome Fire Department Auxiliary because they pretty much had nothing back then. I've also been on Planning and Zoning, Design Review, Board of Adjustment. I worked on the town crew off and on in the 1980s, doing things like doing thrust blocks for the sewer line, the main sewer line, digging out the wrong rock in the trickling filter, looking for water leaks, that kind of stuff. So I know how hard the town crew works. I was on the Yavapai County Water Advisory Committee for 15 years and did a lot of workshops on hydrology and water law. So I have some background in that. Volunteering has been important to my family and continues to be important to me. And I helped with the sewer treatment plant when the last one got installed. I've seen water tank upgrades in the times I've been on the town council in the past. Lots of grants for infrastructure, and I really enjoy doing what I do on the council and volunteering, and I'm optimistic about the future, and I really think we need to work hard to do something about the proliferation of vacation rentals taking away workforce housing, and I'd really like to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. There are two candidates who are not able to be here this evening, and they have submitted written statements and have asked the league to read their statements. So I will do my best to do that for them. The first one is from Susan Gregory. Good evening, fellow running mates, constituents, and all residents of Jerome. My name is Susan Gregory. Some of you may know me as Susha. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend tonight's forum due to illness. This is my second time running for Jerome City Council as the artist candidate. Being a former business owner in Jerome for 5 years in the fields of the arts, I grew to love this place and decided to live here. Jerome has been home to me for the past 3 years. Keeping Jerome affordable for artists and service workers who we all depend on is a goal of mine. Affordable living for all. Resurrecting the auditorium at the old Jerome High School, making it a thriving center for the arts, and generating income for the city is another passion. But it doesn't stop there. I have a vast professional background, and I am offering my experience and service to you. I worked directly for a period of time with the town council when I ran a division of a police department. During that time, I was part of an annual budget decision, analyzing statistics, and working with the public for 7 years. I have owned successful businesses and started them from the ground floor up. I also manage businesses for others. I know what it takes to give something my all. I was a board member of the Sedona Area Homeless Alliance for 2 years, volunteered with helping those who were less fortunate, and exhibiting compassion for everyone. I also created a support group years ago for family members who were directly affected by the incarceration of loved ones. I have been interviewed by the New York Times and other publications because of my work with prison reform. Last but not least, I am an artist who lives in Jerome. This is probably the most important because I know firsthand what it is like to survive minimally in a town that is becoming more and more difficult and to afford to live. However, there are other pressing matters with our city's infrastructure that need attention. Improvements to the sewer system, more fire hydrants, fixing our roads, and billing for water usage instead of a flat rate per person. Obviously, we are a tourist town. With that comes hefty wear and tear on our roads and sewer system, not to mention our limited water consumption due to restrictions. With the influx of Airbnbs in recent years, we have more and more visitors staying in our town. This puts more tension on our infrastructure. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for all that you do and for the invitation to attend today's forum. Thank you for reading my statement today. I hope to be well enough soon to continue to attend more council meetings, and I wish the best to all of our candidates. Thank you. That's from Susan Gregory. The next one is from Stephen Schultz. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any human elected to any seat within any government at any level is a servant of the people. Said human represents the people whom the office or seat is intended for under law. Said human should not take into account their views and ideas as superior to those whom they are to serve. An elected human should endeavor to educate and represent the will of the people. Any council person on any state, town, or village seat, no matter what state, shall serve in this manner, period. Any human elected to any office should be transparent and behave without malice to the people they are sworn to represent. Any human elected to any seat of power at any level shall be held accountable for what they say and do and not do. Any human elected to any seat of power anywhere should be compensated accordingly. Any human elected to any seat of power should not be faulted for the actions of their predecessors. Any human elected to any seat of power anywhere on the planet should understand these things and much more. Growth in this municipality, in Jerome, I believe that this section of the statement refers to the League of Women Voters question, which we're going to be turning to shortly. So I'll hold that, it'll fit there. People in this town don't trust the council. People don't want to talk with council members, and that reeks of alcohol and hang out in bars. These are all facts, told to me. Town council minutes expose lies told by one on the Juneteenth about the parking revenue, crying of misinformation and lies, only to be revealed by official numbers. It is a can of worms. Town obviously hard up for cash and people to take available jobs, having to furnish a house to a job applicant to entice him to accept, as there's no money to pay properly. A can of worms. I'd rather sit at a table with others with open-minded ideas and like-minded goals. This town, as all others, is changing. It is no longer your childhood playground. Reality approaches. The one serving now should be doing so in the near future, as the roots seem to know what's best. Who am I to stand in the way? I have a free life to lead, freedom to move as I wish, as any of you certainly do and are choosing to do. Much success to my fellow candidates. Thank you for your time. Stephen Schultz. And I will read the response to the league question when we get there. Okay, so let's turn to the league question. It was submitted to you in advance, and each candidate has 2 minutes to respond to this question. And I'm going to just rotate where we started with the first person on the list the last time. I'm going to start with the second. So the first responder will be Jack. And the question is, as the Verde Valley continues to grow, what does growth look like to you in Jerome? And specifically, please share what you plan to do in your elected role as it relates to growth. Jack.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Well, how much time do I have? 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Thank you. I think, one of the things I'm learning by working with my colleagues in the Verde Valley, the other mayors, we meet every 2 weeks, is the growth of the Verde Valley and how it's expanding, and the opportunities that we have as a community is finally being recognized statewide by elected officials. I think here in Jerome, we're getting screwed by the Airbnbs, and I think this is something we really need to look at as a town. We're losing a lot of opportunity. We're losing neighborhoods. We're losing the opportunity to engage Airbnbs in a collaboration with our communities, because elected officials, whether you're a mayor, a county supervisor, or a state official, cannot regulate these Airbnbs. Whether you're Sedona, whether you're Cottonwood, Clarkdale, or us. That's a critical issue. I think one of the things for us is making sure we can have affordable housing. That is a high priority for me. It's a high priority for our council, and we're working together to achieve that we can have residential opportunities for people who want to work in Jerome and live in Jerome as artists or otherwise. So that's what our growth will look like. It'll look like a community that appreciates its residents, that has housing for its residents, and that are working in the community. And I think that's something that has been lacking, but we're going to see a change. And I'm hoping that this council that will be reelected will have the opportunity to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, would you like me to repeat the question, or you want to just start?
Growth in the Verde Valley looks a lot like it did when I worked in the Verde Valley, building Bashas' shopping in Sedona, building the apartments behind the post office off of Mingus Avenue. As I said before, building Daniel Bright Elementary School. So I know what basically growth looks like. Every time you drive to the valley, you see a big bunk of lumber, you see a cement truck, you see guys working. That's all basically riding on the economic boom that may or may not sustain the level. What I'm pretty much getting at is the boom and bust cycle that this whole area has seen since I moved here. Bottom line is, we can't control growth. Money is going to flow here from sources and provide jobs and housing and whatever. What the town is basically going to have to do is sustain our water, our sewer, and infrastructure. There's no way we can stop the growth. Can't put up a fence, but economics may do it for us. Bottom line is, and if this shoots my whole candidacy to hell, I'm not going to take on bed and breakfasts as some kind of priority in town. I don't believe the town is responsible for housing. Absolutely not. This is a free world. People can do with their property pretty much what they want. And if that's the death knell of my candidacy, then so be it. My focus is still on water. So if you want to fight over rentals and what people can do with their property, I can tell you the last 2 or 3 lawsuits we filed against B&Bs went nowhere. So if you want to put a lot of money into stopping people from doing what they do with their property, I'm sorry. If people want to move in, stay for a month, that's great. But if they're only here for a weekend, so what? Thank you.
Thank you. Sonia?
Growth in the Verde Valley, that was an interesting question for me because I don't really know how Jerome proper can grow a whole lot. We're kind of limited in our physical area. I know that there's talk of annexation, so that could change things or whatever. Obviously, resources and infrastructure are a huge concern, just even at the moment. The Airbnbs, nobody in town really even seems to know how many there are. And that, to me, is bothersome. I feel like the town should know which houses are Airbnbs, where they are, and I think that we need to be sure that we are collecting what is due to the town from those. The Airbnb will collect for the state, but they don't collect from municipalities. That's kind of up to the municipality and the individual homeowner. And people can do whatever they want with their private property. That's no big deal. But if they're going to do what they want with their property, the town needs to get what the town is due from those properties. So yeah, we'll just have to see how that goes. I feel like, with growth everywhere, especially the way things are changing now, it's probably a good time for us to kind of, build a little bit of a stronghold and protect our homestead and just make sure that the things that are priority to us are getting addressed and we're not getting caught up in the growth, influx of new visitors or influx of investors, or I don't know. We need to pay attention to what's going on. We need to try to stay on the game. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chuck?
Yeah, watching the growth here in northern Arizona in the last couple of years is amazing. Having gone to NAU 1979, the town was very tiny. All of northern Arizona has pretty much grown over the last 30 years. Watching Verde Valley with all the new housing and businesses, just amazing. I noticed, though, that the predictions over the next couple of years for Jerome, though, was our population is going to shrink, not grow. That there's different things been brought up a whole bunch about Airbnb, which is a bit of a problem, but the bigger problem is supply and demand. That Jerome's a very attractive place. A lot of people want to be here, and there's a very limited amount of things here. So if that continues that way, the prices will keep going up, which seems to be the problem that people express with Airbnb, feeling like they're taking the supply away, which would keep driving up the prices. So we can do something about the supply of houses, perhaps even redoing the zoning to allow more second houses on properties, allowing more of the short-term rentals downtown, things like that, to try and supply the demand so that there's more housing at less prices for the people here.
Thank you. Sage?
Answer that question where I kind of left off on my opening remarks. Infrastructure repairs continue to be my number one focus for the town of Jerome. We have a pretty good start, but it takes time, cutting through a lot of bureaucratic tape and unforeseeable and ungodly amounts of money. It is definitely a work in progress, even though we are getting there slowly. Jerome is less than 1 square mile with limited parking, and there is not much room for growth with our topography. Even with that in mind, I do not feel that the growth is our problem. I believe that vacation rentals are our problem. They are taking housing away from locals, destroying the few neighborhoods we have, and driving the housing market to unsustainable levels. We need SB 1350 repeal. I am currently sponsoring council discussions on annexation of areas just outside the town limits. Also, this council as a whole is already trying to address affordable housing with the renovations of the Hotel Jerome and the purchase of a residence at 655 Holly, which we closed on Friday. It will take time and money, as things don't just happen overnight, and money does not grow on trees or appear out of thin air just because you need it, as some in this town seem to think it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Okay, growth. I don't think that bigger necessarily means better or more necessarily means better. I prefer quality over quantity, and I really feel like we need to maintain our infrastructure, our water, sewer, roads, emergency services in order to accommodate growth. And in the past, it's grown at a fairly decent rate, but because of vacation rentals, the population, according to this last census, has actually fallen. And I think it's really important that we have places for people to live, places for people who will hopefully volunteer for our fire department, our boards, the Humane Society, things like that. I just think that we're losing community when we have empty homes that are only rented out in residential areas. And I'm fine with them in commercial zones, and I think that towns such as ours should be able to regulate them. I feel like there's a carrying capacity to the land, and that our town needs to be more sustainable and resilient and not be totally dependent on tourism. We have the opportunity to take care of ourselves here if we have enough people here and are actually a community rather than a big hotel. So I really want to keep working people on a diverse population here and would like to see that continue. I think regulation of vacation rentals is really important, and as well as infrastructure if you're going to have growth.
Thank you. And now I will share the response to this question.
Forgot Ms. Barber.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. Thank you for calling my attention. Go ahead.
I'm not against growth. I'm about managing growth responsibly and protecting and conserving our natural resources. Our Jerome General Plan back in the 80s talked about how we'd probably gain twice as many residents as the 80s. We went from about 400 people to about 500 people, back down to about 422. SB 1350 is crushing Jerome. Other municipalities have parking. We don't have parking. So with any new growth, when you build a house, sometimes you're taking away parking from other houses around you. So Jerome has a law that if you build a new home, you must provide parking. We must use the parking that we're providing for the new homes. And again, Jerome was built before the automobile, so vacation rentals and the amount of cars in our little residential streets where we don't even have enough room for residents that live there has become rather problematic. Our little square mile of town is a National Historic Landmark. We are the best history of the Old West left. Our town is probably 95% old buildings and 5% new infill. We need to be very, very careful about how we infill this town. We need new water tanks, and we need a major upgrade on our wastewater treatment system. So again, responsibly and conserving and protecting our natural resources must be the way we move forward into the future in Jerome. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Alex. My apologies. Following the list and forgot you were first last time. Thank you. Candidate Stephen Schultz responded to this question from the League, and so I will read his response. Growth in this municipality, in Jerome, obviously impossible in any realm of imagination for several obvious reasons. Sewer at capacity, tax base flat, residents leaving. Parking is abysmal. There is a backlog of unprosecuted parking tickets. Most tickets go unpaid, single visits, few return visits. Water bill flat rate per resident. Can't build in Jerome unless you are a millionaire. Annexation being discussed, not on the steps, in knowledgeable circles, believe it or not. Insolvency is a real thing. It's possible, believe it or not. Thank you, Stephen. Now we're going to turn to questions that have been submitted by voters to you. And you will have 2 minutes for each question. And I'm going to start with Joe. Okay, so here's the question. You all get this question. Given the water and sewer systems in Jerome that are very old, we've talked about those challenges, what are your views about how the town can improve these systems, water and sewer?
We're not waiting. We've done a ton of work over the last 20 years. 8-inch mains that had to have ADOT approval, tearing up the main highway was a big deal. The sewer works going from approximately 1/4 of 1 acre to closer to 5 acres of wetlands. That's a major upgrade to our wastewater treatment. When I was sewer commissioner in the 90s, all we had was a flocculator, a static screen, and some other homemade implements to basically get our water up to EPA spec. Since then, additional acreage was bought or leased from Verde. We created an entire wetlands ecosystem that literally puts out cleaner water than comes into the town. Believe it or not, that was one of the requirements. Bottom line is, growth is inevitable except for the economics that sustains it. So I'm sure that we have many things to look forward to financially as a town if our income is depleted by a lack of tourism, a lack of property improvements, whether they're rented or not. So I think my bottom line, once again, is water, sewer, and we are making progress on each of those. Thanks.
Thank you. Sonia?
What I can tell, the current council has been dedicating a lot of time and working very hard towards figuring out the best way to do the water line improvements and the wastewater treatment plant. I know that you guys have taken tours. I know that you have met with engineers. I know that there have been several estimates brought to the table. I know that there are grants. It's a big, big puzzle of how to get this done. The cost associated with these things is mind-blowing. It's hard to even process as like a regular person, the amount of money and the amount of effort and time and cooperation that it takes to get something like this done. This is a major, major, major undertaking. And if I'm able to help in any way, I certainly will. I think you guys are doing a great job. It's things I don't completely understand. I'm not an engineer. I'm not on the town crew. I see them running around an awful lot, patching stuff. As much as anything, they don't even really have all of their efforts and energy to put into big projects because they're running around patching holes, our sidewalks, our streets, they spring leaks. I have friends whose basements have been flooded because the sewer lines back up, and those require immediate attention. So I do think you guys are doing a great job addressing this, and I will help any way I can. Whether I'm on council or not, I don't know how I could help otherwise, but just let me know.
Thank you. Chuck?
Watching the progress that's been happening pretty much look like patchwork, fixing things as they go. That seems to be a good effort for the town to continue to put a lot of resources toward water and sewer and the rest. Sounds like doing the new sewer plant's going to be $7 million, something like that, which is going to require a whole bunch of grants and other things to make it all happen. In the meantime, allocating as much resources to keep everything flowing and all the parts working for the people here is really what matters until those things can be fixed in a systematic way. And it looks like that's what's been going on. So,
Thank you. Sage?
I think that we're already doing what we need to be doing to address those things. We are currently working on getting an upgrade for the wastewater treatment plant, and we are currently budgeting to put in another water tank and to refurbish the water tank that needs some assistance at this point so that we can hold more water. And since I've been on this council, since I decided to run in 2017, it's all been about infrastructure for me, and it continues to be about infrastructure. The water, the sewer, the utilities, the streets, the fire department, the police department. That is our infrastructure, and that is what is seriously in need of assistance in this town so that we can keep running. So that is what I still run for, is the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Oh, okay. Infrastructure, yes. That's been, sewer and water have been a favorite hobby of mine since I moved here. I first got to see the water line coming into town, I think in the mid-'70s. That is when we got $1 million grant to replace the incoming water line into town because it was leaking so bad we had to have water trucked into town for the residents. And ever since then, I realized how important if we don't have infrastructure, we don't have a town. And that includes fire department, police department, but water and sewer have been the things I've paid most attention to. Was happy when we upgraded our sewer plant 20 years ago, but it's time to do it again. And I think $7 million sounds like a lot of money, but $1 million 30, 40, 50 years ago now, was probably about the same, and I think we can do it without causing too much damage to people's, how much they have to pay for their bills, and I think those upgrades are going to be good, and just continue fixing things. And I think it's just like every other town is always working on water lines, sewer lines. It's not unusual. Water tanks, yes. Water lines, sewer lines, all of that is just an ongoing project. And I think having a good town crew, which we do right now, is a great thing to have because they let us know when things are about to break, and that's kind of what it is you fix whatever needs fixing right now. So, thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Comes in from Springs, and it is a gravity driven system, one of the last ones probably in the US that's gravity. We have some storage up above town and some storage over on what we call Sunshine Hill. There's been a lot of talk of more water tanks up there. It's going to cost probably more than the water tank to get a road to get a water tank up there. So people that don't know, people that don't come to meetings and aren't actually in and just want to think they know what's best for the town, need to realize that we keep working hard. We have grant funding. That's what I keep thinking. We're going to fund all this with grants. So when we talk about water, when I first sat on the council, we had a young man talk about how we needed to do some upgrades to our water system and get a maintenance plan in effect, and we've done that. That first year we put $90,000 into the water system. Every single year we put more money into the water system. We will continue to do what we can to keep the water flowing. For the 422 people that live here, we have enough water. It's the 2 million people that are infiltrating us in the Airbnbs that are making us need more water and making us need to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant. So we will do it, and then hopefully when we get SB 1350 reform, we will be able to have residents that live here in our town, want to own businesses, actually live here and volunteer for our town again, and we'll have enough infrastructure to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you, Councilman. For those of you that will watch this, listen to this, may not understand how effective this council has been right now in looking at this critical water issue at all different levels, whether it be the water coming into town, the wastewater that's leaving this town. The council and Candace, I have to give Candace a lot of credit. She's left us now, and we've got a great replacement in Brett. But the key is we've already achieved now steps down the pathway to help us improve our water situation, whether it be the water coming in or the wastewater going out. And I think the important thing to know is, one, we got approved for over $1 million in a loan. We got approved for over $4 million of a grant. And we're working with a company that's done an extraordinary job of designing what we need for a sewer plant that's going to last for many, many years. Not from year to year, but we're all committed to building a facility that'll be here for the next 25 years. And that's on its way because of the hard work of the council and staff and the opportunity that we have to get these funds, which we are getting. And that's really outstanding. And again, you said our town crew, Marty and the gang, what they're doing up there to make sure our water continues to be safe, continues to be protected, is critical. And it's ongoing. So I think, from my perspective, I'm committed to us getting this sewer plant done and for it to be done in a way that's going to be here for many years to come. And I appreciate this council, its willingness to go down there, to see it, to be there, and to make a commitment to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. It is 6:54 p.m. and Jack made a request to take a bio break about halfway through. So we're going to do one more question, and then we will take that break, and we'll stop recording, and then let's say 5 minutes. Is that sufficient? Okay. Okay, here's the next question. What steps will you take to ensure a local government that is inclusive, diverse, and responsive to the residents of Jerome? How will you engage town residents in decision-making? Do you want me to repeat that, or you're good? Yes. Repeat? Yes. What steps will you take to ensure a local government that is inclusive, diverse, and responsive to the residents of Jerome? How will you engage town residents in decision-making? Okay, and we're going to start with Sonia.
Well, council meetings are open to the public. Meeting packets and agendas and minutes all end up on the website. Not a lot of people show up to those, myself included some days, my apologies. If people want to be heard, they should show up and say what they need to say. I feel like maybe the town's newsletter could be a little more informative, maybe put some more specific information in people's hands. For those that won't take the time to come to the meetings or read the minutes and things like that. So maybe, that could be helpful. But, just having open conversations with people, listening, trying to correct them if they're wrong, which does happen sometimes. Being as informed and knowledgeable as possible myself so that I can share the right information with them. A lot of people have a lot to say, a lot of people have a lot of knowledge, and a lot of people have really strong opinions, and it would be great if we could all get together and sort through those a little bit. I mean, it takes a village to run a village, I think, and it's not solely the responsibility of the 5 people on council and the handful of folks on the other boards to make sure that this town goes in the direction that everybody needs it and wants it to go. So I think I would just try to encourage more public participation, open conversations, show up, let's talk about it. Let's get together, figure it out as a team, a community. Thanks.
Thank you. Chuck?
We won't need to take my 2 minutes. I'm just going to pretty much say ditto to everything Sonia said. The meetings are open, so anybody who wants to participate can come and put their input in, and there's usually pretty good information bandied about at the council, and if you want to, you can always bring any technical experts with and let people know what you feel, and yeah, pretty much there does seem to be a lot of very strong opinions in this town. So it's good if people get to express them.
Thank you. Sage?
Well, I don't think that it's my responsibility to keep the government inclusive and diverse. I believe that's up to the voters to do that, including public and decisions. We are open council. We actually rearranged some meetings during our budget so that hopefully people could come and make it to our budget meetings. We always post the information. You always get a full packet. There are seats. There was a time when we were in heavy COVID that, of course, things were in Zoom. And I feel like we had more Zoom attendance than we have had public attendance since I've been on council, which is very interesting to me. But for me to include the public in decisions, the public needs to come to me. I make myself available. My phone number is in the local phone book here. I answer my phone. I will answer your questions. I will ask the town manager if I don't know the answer to your questions. I think I've shown that over the last 4 years. I have no problem speaking my mind and telling the truth. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Jane?
I agree with everything that's been said here, and I wish more people would come. Part of it, I think, is people need to feel that they're invested in the community. When you have a home and you want to make this your home, you might be more interested in attending meetings. I don't know. But I agree. I don't think it's my job to get people to come to meetings. I wish people would. They have a lot to talk about and things they want done, and you invite them to council meetings and they don't come, and it's really frustrating. I would like to see us all work together. We're a community. Whether we agree or not, at least we could hash things out and be respectful of each other. And I think it's a town where the majority usually does what they feel needs to be done, but you have to be respectful of minority opinions and not step on toes. So newsletter, I don't know. I sometimes feel like people just look at it and throw it in the trash, so I don't know about that. I really think it might be helpful if we did upgrade of our how we film or how we do audio videotape of our council meetings so that people, so it'd be a combination of Zoom and in person, and maybe we would have more participation. I don't know, but people feeling invested in the town, I think, is important.
Thank you. Alex?
So when I used to write an article when I was the mayor in the newsletter, I would always invite people to come join our meetings. Our meetings are public. We have been told by our legal that we are the most democratic council. We don't need to let people talk, but we will let them talk, and we will let everyone talk. Since COVID has happened, we have really had lackluster participation in our council meetings. My phone number is also in the Jerome book, my email address. So I don't know anything further that I could do to encourage public participation. We are very democratic, and we would really, really love to see our public show up. We would also love to see the people that are running for council show up at our council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you. I think my colleagues here really said it well, and they practice it well at all our meetings all the time. You know, it's inclusiveness is not an easy word to deal with. I think the important thing that we do, we respect the people that live in Jerome, and we want to help them be successful. And we want our town to be successful, safe, and healthy. And I think there are lots of opportunities for that. As you've heard from my colleagues, our meetings are open. We encourage citizens to come. We adjust our timelines so that people have better accessibility to come to our meetings. We're all accessible. There is no elitism here among this group. We are caring individuals that want Jerome to succeed and are individuals that live here to be happy, healthy, and understand that they are participants in the success of Jerome. It's not the individuals at Town Hall. We have the opportunity to bring issues together and help make them a reality, but we rely on the input of our citizens, and they need to understand that, and hopefully, as we continue to move forward, that they will adopt more of that so we can have more participation of our citizens. All of us are encouraging that. There is no barriers that we're putting in place. It's the opposite. And I'm really excited. And again, that's why this council has been so effective with getting the things done that we wanted to and need to do. But it's terrific. And I think hopefully the citizens will respond in a positive way.
Thank you. Joe?
Inclusivity, I agree it's a tough call because you might have to include people you don't like. And as far as my approach to the voters, as a write-in, I actually went out and knocked on doors, met some of the voters, tried to get some name recognition, had an opportunity to speak with people one-on-one, obviously. But the thrust of our government in general, if you don't mind me saying, is sustaining and maintaining what we have and not overreaching. And I'll be honest with you, I believe legal endeavors that try to, shall we say, manipulate or control people's behavior is a waste of money. We've constantly tried to social engineer through lawsuits, class actions. Lawyers make a ton of money on those kind of things, and very little gets done. I don't believe this focus of the town should be demonizing any particular class of business. That would include rentals. Yeah, I hate to say it, I'm back on that. If I had inherited property, or I had a property up here that I couldn't afford to live in because of whatever, I might want to rent the place out. I might not want to sell it. So if I had an opportunity to rent that place out for $200 or $300 a weekend, I'd go for it. If there's a problem with the parking, we have laws. If you have a sticker on your car, you can park on the street. If not, it's going to get towed. So we already have some measures to control the traffic. If they're noisy, I got a B&B right up the street from me. If they're noisy, I call the cops. I don't believe you can tell somebody that they can't do with a piece of property that maybe they want to keep but can't afford to live here. Thank you.
Thank you. As promised, we will now take a 5-minute bio break. Ready for the next question. This one is long, so I'm going to read it the first time, and then I'm going to read it the second time. Okay? You have 1 to 2 minutes to respond to this question. The max is 2 minutes, but you don't have to take the full 2 minutes if you don't need it. Okay. Many of the issues facing Jerome, for example, short-term rentals, affordable housing, water, sewer, infrastructure, involve the participation and engagement of outside entities, outside of Jerome. How will you navigate and build partnerships with such organizations as ADOT, Yavapai County Board of Supervisors, United States Forest Service, state legislators, the governor, Congress, Yavapai College, Northern Arizona Health, and any other entity whose decisions impact Jerome and the quality of life here? Who do you consider the 3 most critical partners, and why do you consider them important? So I'm going to say it one more time. Many of the issues that face Jerome, for example, short-term rentals, affordable housing, water, sewer, involve the participation and engagement of outside entities, external to your council. How will you navigate and build partnerships with such groups as ADOT, Yavapai County Board of Supervisors, the Forest Service, state legislators, the governor, Congress, Yavapai College, Northern Arizona Health, and any other entity whose decisions impact Jerome and the quality of life here? Who do you consider the 3 most critical partners, and why? And we're going to start with Jane.
I think being on the council, you go to intergovernmental meetings where hopefully the Board of Supervisors of our district are there. Yavapai Apache Nation. We meet different entities at intergovernmental meetings and hopefully have a rapport with some of these people, and working with other communities, you find out who might be the best person to approach about certain issues. I've been to legislative meetings in Phoenix before when there are issues we needed to address. It would be nice if it were easier to comment on issues that come up in state legislature. I think having a rapport with our local legislators is a good thing. Going to NACOG meetings, and I have to say this council has been great because just about every council member has someone outside of our group who they've made friends with and are able to talk to, and I think that's great when each council person takes a different, like Forest Service, going to Forest Service meetings, going to intergovernmental meetings, working with large property owners. Verde Exploration is a large property owner. I think that's important to work with here. Discussing on the council who's best to work with certain people, working with granting agencies, NACOG. I think we all kind of pick our area of interest. And as far as picking 3 entities to work with, that is really hard because, I mean, we have a state highway that runs through our town, so we're dealing with ADOT a lot as far as issues that come up dealing with the highway. So that's really an ongoing thing. Dealing with NACOG.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay.
Thank you. Sage?
I'm going to agree
once you get on council, there are meetings that if you go to different meetings, different people show up to them from different areas. It's called networking. You know, we already have, like Jane was saying, we already have pretty good relations with ADOT, and I think the Yavapai County supervisors, we have a pretty good relationship. We do deal with them pretty frequently. And I'm going to say that there's not just three that are important. We are a community, in a state, and everyone matters, because at some point we are going to need to reach out to Clarkdale or to Camp Verde or to Yavapai County supervisors or to the new governor or, to Kirsten Sinema for help or whoever. And you can't just say one or the other is more important, because it's a whole network of working together to make things better and to keep them working correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
Sounds pretty much like trying to pick three is really a difficult thing, because for each of the different issues, there's way more than three issues, and there's different stakeholders on each one of these. And the real thing to do is to network with the different stakeholders on each issue, learn who's involved with it, go to all the meetings. That's the real dreaded thing, attending all the meetings and talking to the people that are involved with each issue. That's what it comes down to.
Thank you. Sonia?
Yes, to all of that stuff. Going to meetings, networking. ADOT's a big one for me, just because from a layperson's viewpoint, the highway running through town is kind of a big deal, and we definitely need to get along with them and be able to reach out to them if there's certain things that we need. And I guess having a clear idea of what we need from different organizations or would like to have their help with is probably helpful too. And I guess it would just be like showing up. Showing up. That's it.
Thank you. Joe?
I would think that VDOT is plan channels, a lot of clearing the roads, whatnot, rock slides, ditches and whatnot. With great Purposeful Road and whatnot. But there's also Freeport and plan, good mining, deep. It's all about inside Verde exploration forest, which is basically our state agencies. I think our best means of reaching out to them is to invite them to the town. Most of them would like to come here anyway. And develop a rapport with certain individuals that work in the offices that we have to with, keep it personal if possible. Maintain good relations at every level. I mean, don't insult the governor, don't insult the town councils of communities. Just basically focus on what we need to do, make the place presentable, and make people want to come here, especially if they do something for us. And that's all we're surviving. Make it fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Jack?
We've heard a lot of good suggestions, and I think that's a great question that was asked, because it is critical who we talk to. For me, every 2 weeks, I talk to the other mayors. We have a call every 2 weeks, and I learn a lot from them and their experience here in the Verde Valley and the special needs, literally, of the Verde Valley, different than other communities in the state of Arizona. And it's wonderful having the opportunity to interact with the other mayors, and that's one group that's important. The other, the senatorial elected officials. You know, we've had some elected officials up here. Rogers came up here, and she led the way and got us $500,000 to use to repair a road, because she came up and saw it. We invited her up. She came up. We talked to her. I wouldn't vote for her, but she needed to know about Jerome. We were a district, and she got the money for us. And we even had GOSAR up here, of all people, come to visit and tour around with our fire department. So I think the important thing is the elected officials and also Northern Arizona Health and the folks that deal with the health thing. We were able to get vaccines up here for our citizens for free. We were able to get booster shots up here for free, because of our relationship with these people and their understanding of how Jerome is an important community and is in such need. So I think the mining companies were mentioned also. I mean, the opportunities to work with them to develop affordable housing. They own so much land around us, and we've had some conversations now that they're excited about, where we may be able to develop with them affordable housing for people in the communities on their land. So I think it was a great question. ADOT we got to work with, but they're not easy. ADOT is not easy. And I think I'm just thrilled that we have our wonderful crew of individuals that's able to communicate effectively with them. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex?
So Mayor Jack talked a little bit about the mayor and the supervisor signing. As the mayor before Jack, this is a meeting that has a lot of merit. You get to talk closely with all of the higher ups, so this is a very wonderful resource. There's also the intergovernmental meetings that Jay spoke about. The Verde Valley on this side of Yavapai County tries to stay on the same page and all work together towards the betterment of our communities. So with ADOT, the Yavapai County supervisors, they're a wonderful resource to us. Forest Service as well. The Verde Front Leadership Council is a meeting that has a lot of mayors, the Forest Service, a lot of people. They talk mostly about the Verde River, but Jerome was able to work with the Forest Service and get our Allen Springs Road closed down due to fire danger, so we don't have to worry about a bunch of off-road vehicles. There is something that came up in COVID that was public use on public lands, overuse and over trash. So every single one of these entities that I spoke of is very resourceful. NACOG, I think NACOG is one of the biggest ones, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments. I also attend their meetings. So I would say of the three, NACOG is probably one of the highest. We also have Freeport McMoran. They usually does some sort of funding for us. So all of these entities, we bring them to the table, we welcome them with open arms, and we reach out to them at the different meetings that we attend. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, let's allocate 1 minute to it. I think you can answer it in 1 minute. Here's the question. What essential services would you advocate to preserve if budget cuts are necessary during your term? What essential services would you advocate to preserve if budget cuts are necessary during your term? Let's start with Chuck.
I would say the number one would be the fire department. I think it's to everybody's advantage to not have the town burn again. It's happened enough times in the past, and that would be the one biggest thing that we just want to keep funded. And I really appreciate all the volunteers that are here in town that keep it running and make it affordable, and Rusty's been doing a great job. So that's the main thing I would say.
Thank you. Sage?
Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Water, sewer, fire department, police department, streets, infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
When you say one essential service, yes, we have more than one.
Essential services. Services.
Oh, okay. I would agree with Sage. Water, sewer, well, trash is one of them also. Fire department, police department, and yes, we definitely need our fire department, and they need the water.
Thank you. Alex?
I'm going to add the infrastructure as well, and then our public service, our fire
Thank you.
And we'll follow up in the current budget cuts and have to do that. So this is something that we're just kind of, yeah.
Jack?
Well, I think they've all been made. The fire and police are critical and essential, and the infrastructure. I think part of essential service too is health. I think this is something that we have not had the opportunity to do. And the good news is it's not costly for us to have people come up and help us. We were able to get a dental van come up and do free dentistry. We were able to get the vaccines up here. I think we're able to get, because of this community and the individual contacts that all of us have with leaders throughout the state, that we can integrate essential services even with budget cutbacks.
Thank you. Joe?
Sounds like nobody's studying anything. Really describe so the bottom line is we don't want to give up anything. The council have to maintain basic services. What I would wonder is what are we willing to have? I didn't really sound like we want all. So let's not set us up for arbitrary cutting the budget. It's not needed, not cutting. There is a loss of revenue in economic situations. Yeah, we're going to have to cut. So it's not a question of where are we going to maintain, it's where are we going to cut. So it's kind of a weird question. What are you going to preserve if you don't have any money to buy? We're looking about what we need to have.
Thank you. And Sonia?
Yes to all of that stuff. And then, I mean, those are kind of givens: fire, police, town crew, infrastructure, all that stuff. I would hope that we would never have to suspend support of the food bank or the shuttle. I think those things are kind of important to a lot of the residents here. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, you're going to have to do a little bit of thinking about this, so I'll give you a minute to do that before I start asking you to respond. So here's the question. What question should I have asked you this evening that I did not? Please state that question and your response to it. What question do you think, oh, she should have asked us this, and I didn't ask you that? So what is that question I should have asked you? And then would you answer that question? Okay, so can we have the 1 minute timer to think about the question and the response, and then we'll start. Just give me the signal. Okay.
I want to ask.
Oh.
Can I do that?
No.
Yeah,
Let's not joke.
I know, but
People would understand what you meant.
Okay, what question should I have asked you as a candidate tonight, and I didn't ask you that? Please state the question and then give your response. You have up to 2 minutes, and we're going to start with Sage.
And I'm totally drawing a blank. It seems like a really stupid
Would you like to
question me.
pass and come back?
Yeah, I'll pass.
Okay, thank you. Jane?
Do you have the time to dedicate that it takes to be on the council, and do your homework and research for council meetings. I think that's a big one, and come prepared. And I would answer that one by saying yes, and I would hope that other candidates would feel that way as well.
Good question.
Thank you. Alex?
I went kind of the same way with Jane. If I'm elected, will I be available at meetings? Will I be prepared? Will I be present at meetings? This is something that not a lot of people think about. They think, I want to do this, and then things come up on their plate and they drop out. So if you are elected, it's 2 years and we expect you to be at the meetings. So if no one asked if I'm elected, will I be available at all meetings? That's a very valid question. I have been available at all meetings over my 5, 6 years. It all goes into a blur. Pretty soon it'll be 8 years going on 10. Thank you for listening, you guys.
Thank you. Jack?
How much salary do you want to make to take this job? Is the question. And the answer is none.
Thank you. Joe? Thank you. Sonia?
Alex's question is really good about the time commitment. It's a hard one to answer if you haven't actually served on council before, just because you don't realize how you think it's just going to be like the one meeting once a month, but there's a lot of special meetings, and there's a lot of outside work, and there's a lot of homework. So it would be hard to answer as someone coming in, but I do think that a question like that would cause somebody to stop and think about the time commitment that it would require to be an effective member of council. A question that I was more prepared to answer was that didn't get asked was, the motivation behind running for council. It's hard to squeeze all that in a 2-minute intro. And so I'm going to use this as my opportunity to state that. And I am very personally motivated to invest some time and energy into this town. The whole idea was put in my head by a friend of mine who said that, us old timers, we've done our duty, we've served our time. It's time for you younger folk to, kind of step in and put some work in. And that was where my whole motivation came from running for council. I have a lot of respect for the people that have been here for the last 20, 30, and 40 years. We talk a lot about our early mining days and the history there, but the people that were here when there wasn't anything and have stuck it out and made this town what it is, somewhere that someone like me wants to be, we owe them. The people that are here now owe the people that have been here and that are still here and still working so hard. I owe you guys, and so that's my motivation behind running for council. I want to help as much as possible. It's going to be a lot of work. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm going to try my hardest if I have the opportunity, and hopefully, keep Jerome a really awesome place for the next 20, 30, and 40 years.
Thank you. Chuck?
I think I'll answer the Alex question as well about having enough time. Pretty much since we've been here, been attending all of the different meetings, reading through the packets, looking at what all the issues are, and just trying to be part of the system and seeing what's going on. The question I would ask is why do you think you would be an effective member of the town council? And the general answer to that is long-time engineering experience, where the engineering methods applied to business, to government. You try and analyze everything about whatever the topic is, learn where the state of the art is, learn from the experts everything about the topic, and then try and synthesize a solution to those things that can be done in a reasonable length of time and for an affordable budget, which is usually the hardest part, not having any unobtainium or the billion people needed to get a job done. That you look for ways to get things done on time, on budget.
Thank you. Sage?
So this council works hard at getting things done. Are you going to be able to handle the negativity, the naysayers, and the angry constituents who want to make statements of misinformation about what council is working on? My answer would be yes. I deal with it almost on a daily basis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this will be the final question before we move to your closing statements. So, here's the question. How will the Jerome Town Council address funding for infrastructure and affordable housing? How will you address funding for infrastructure and affordable housing? And Jane, let's start with you.
Affordable housing, unfortunately, seems to have fallen on people looking at government to provide affordable housing because it's become it's an investment, and people buy up properties, I guess, waiting to flip them over. And it's really hard for a government to, other than with HUD grants and that type of thing. However, this town has taken that on with the Hotel Jerome and also attempting to work with other property owners. You can't tell people what they can do with their private property. So if they want to turn it into a vacation rental, they can. As well as if you change zoning so that people can put a second house in their backyard. That doesn't mean that it's going to be affordable housing. So it's a challenge to do affordable housing. And I think that our town has, because we do have an existing structure, we do have the parking for the existing structure. I'm not sure how many apartments, but that is one way. If the town owns the property, I don't think we want to be necessarily a landlord for these places. It's probably going to be something farmed out, but at least the town would be able to have some rent control over that property, and I think that's a good thing. And as far as infrastructure, there are grants available for infrastructure, but we've been working really hard that our water, sewer, and trash pays for itself, and I think it's been affordable so far.
Thank you. Alex?
There that is built pretty much all with grant funding. So I would say grants. And what was the second part of the question that I'm forgetting?
How will you as a town council address funding for infrastructure and affordable housing?
So right now we are still working on some grant funding for major water line improvements. So we're just going to keep doing it. Our Infrastructure is very antique. So to try to continue to upgrade it, we just continue every year. This council works really hard on our budget. This council has worked really, really hard on infrastructure. If you look at boots on the ground and how much this council has gotten done in the last 2, 4, 6 years. So we will just continue to do what we can, reach out to any entity that maybe can give us some financial assistance. And really, this council has been focusing on our one big building that sits there empty, the Hotel Jerome. So whatever we can do to turn that into affordable, accessible, local housing, we'll see what that even means in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, I think we hit on a few. One of the things I think we need to continue what we're doing is the innovation in collaboration and discussion, for example, with the mining company on their property. There's opportunities for us to build just outside of Jerome affordable housing in collaboration with them. And we're in negotiation on some issues, and I think there is some opportunity there. I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Joe?
Grants, obviously, are a great way to raise funds that you don't have to go out and earn and shake people down for. If we were to raise water rates to a more reflective usage, then people that use lots and lots of water would pay basically for their usage. That would put money into our maintenance water lines. I think the days of, and I hate to say it, flat rate water are numbered in Jerome. We have to raise money to rebuild our infrastructure, and if we can do it through water rates because of excessive use, that's one way. Obviously grants are nice, but that's free money. We have to fight for that. These are things that we could do as a town to raise our own capital. As far as rents, I don't believe in rent control. I don't believe in the town being a landlord. Sorry. That smacks of some other kind of government. You don't come to town and expect housing just because you're here and you happen to work for the town. I don't think it's part of the package. And again, I'm not going to take B&Bs to task. These people are going to make a living any way they can, and you'll be wasting your time trying to stop them. Thank you.
Thank you. Sonia?
Yes, grants and moving the money around, finding the funding for it. I hadn't really considered the mining company as a partner in that, so that's kind of interesting. So,
You're excited about it.
yeah. It's just kind of the puzzle. You just got to piece it together, stay diligent, and slow and steady wins the race.
Going in the right
They know. I would just support.
Thank you. Chuck?
Inexpensive housing has become a huge problem worldwide. We have an inflationary environment. The price has been going up. If you look at what a rental was in the 1960s, you can see over time it is just an issue everywhere at all points. As far as locally in the town, being able to have more housing here can do some to relieve the pressure. Not a whole lot, though, when it comes down to it. Be great to get as many grants and money in as possible locally, supporting the tax base here with the businesses, and just plain having the town collect enough money to be able to afford the more expensive stuff. Wood, building materials, you name it, have shot through the roof recently, and it's just plain difficult to do inexpensive housing.
Thank you. Sage?
So funding for infrastructure, we are already in the process of using some grants along with our match. That most of the funding that we do for our match, I think, is because we have the parking kiosks that are bringing in income, and we're able to move money around, and maybe, we're putting money into infrastructure right now from those parking kiosks. That was the plan when we put the parking kiosks. It is earmarked for infrastructure and infrastructure only. Grant monies are going to get sent to municipalities, so this town may as well put in for them and get them and use them because they're going to go out regardless. And then I'm going to make a statement. Looks like these days you can't really stop greed. So for affordable housing, I'm going to continue to push for SB 1350 repeal or reform. We are working on the Hotel Jerome, which really, honestly, it should not be a government's business to make affordable housing. But because we are so unique in this town, we have the Hotel Jerome, and we've already started working on that. We're still in the process trying to find the funding. It's slow moving, but it's happening. We did just purchase a house on Holly Avenue so that we can house at least one of our heads, and if they don't want to use that, then we can do other town employees or low to moderate income people. Real quick, my mom moved here in 1972 and paid $65 for her apartment in the Haskins. That same apartment rents for $1,000 a month with barely any renovations. Greed is gross. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move to closing remarks, closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute to share final remarks on why he or she wants to serve the people of Jerome on the town council. And we will go in reverse order from where we started this evening. So the first person to give closing remarks will be Jane.
I'd really like to continue serving on the council at least one more term to see the sewer plant and some other projects that we've been working on come to fruition. I'd really like to see some headway in SB 1350, that we can regulate vacation rentals in this town so that people can continue to live here. I'm concerned about our community losing its community feeling because people can't live here and have a stake in the community. I don't want to just be a hotel community. In the 50 years I've been here, we've been a family, whether we agree or not. I would like to see us continue to be able to work together and make this a livable community, sustainable community. And I'd like to see the trees continuing to grow here and the environment improve and food being grown here for our community as well. I'd like to see kids be able to grow up here and just have that community feeling, and that's what I'd like to see in the next couple years of my being on council, and would appreciate being on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sage?
This council has addressed some really big issues in a short 4 years, and I have to say that all 4 of the current council members that are seeking re-election have had nothing but the best interest of this town at heart. We all ran for the last 2 elections with infrastructure repairs as our #1 focus, and I feel that we are making good progress with what we have to work with. I'm extremely proud of this council. I have enjoyed serving with them in a healthy, problem-solving environment for the betterment of Jerome. I am again running for council with the hopes that townspeople will again allow me to continue being a steward of my hometown that I love dearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
Yes, having been a resident here for a number of years, having business and a house here, just really like to see the town continue to progress, have it be the best for all the residents. That's it.
Thank you. Sonia?
I agree with a lot of what Jane had to say. I do appreciate all the efforts of the current council. I really just want to help. I want to be here for a long time. And I know it's a lot of work. There's a lot of things to think about and consider. I know I would have a lot to learn. But I feel like I have a perspective that could be helpful. And I would like to be a part of the team that, keeps Jerome from changing too drastically over the next decade or so. I feel like we're kind of at a little bit of a tipping point, and I just want to help. Just want to help. That's it.
Thank you. Joe?
The stampede to the Verde Valley could stop on a dime if the money dries up. Dried up wells and springs come second, unfortunately. Visions of thirsty cattle come to mind when people move here, find the water trough empty, and bet their lives on it. The wells can be deepened until layers of salt poison them. Our springs rely on rain and snow. We can't drill deeper. That leaves us pretty much with prayer and a plane load of silver iodide for cloud seeding. Now, if I'm getting a little too mystical on you, I'm telling you straight up, our water situations are going to trump every one of yours concern about property use, parking, anything else you care to bring up. It's all going to be based on your thirst. So, if you want to take basically for what it's worth, I believe our focus needs to be on water, the storage thereof, and everything else is pretty much on the back burner for me. I'm sorry, I can't really get excited about restricting people's way to make an income. I just can't go there. It's not the form of government I know. It's not the country I live in. We're not going to be dictating to an owner what he can't do with his property. You can do it with zoning, great. On the other hand, if you just want to make people stay out or just come here under certain circumstances, good luck. You're not going to be able to do it. People are going to be able to come up here and stay as long as they can. If they can only afford a weekend, well, that's it. At least they're here. At least they experience the town. They couldn't afford a month. They couldn't afford a one-year lease. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, when Jamie and I moved here, we fell in love with Jerome. Like I said, we were married here, we've been living here. I hadn't thought about being on the council when I first moved here. Next thing you know, there I am. It's been 4 years being on the town council, 2 years as mayor. And it's been such an honor and a privilege and an opportunity for me to hopefully do positive things, which I want to continue. I think I've done reasonably well. I'm so proud of this council. We all care about each other. We're all different. We are different, but we all care about Jerome. And we all care about integrity, the number one thing. And I think for each of us, the opportunity to move forward, to continue our efforts to improve Jerome, take care of the issues that need to be resolved, whether they be water, affordable housing, infrastructure, safe highways. I want to be able to put a walkway out there, but I can't. ADOT doesn't let me do it for safety. So I think there are lots of different issues. I'm honored to be on the council. And I would love to continue that for another couple of years at least. Thank you so very much. And thank you to my colleagues, the council members, for an extraordinary 4 years of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
I do agree that water is one of the most important things here in Jerome. Keep the water flowing and keep the sewer flowing. However, I will make a statement. If you love Jerome, you will stay in a hotel and not a home. Homes are not hotels. I do appreciate each and every Jeromean vote for my reelection. I will work hard for this town, continue to serve the community that I love, that I was born in. We do need vacation rental reform. This is something that almost everyone agrees up here on this panel. The other thing
everyone needs to be aware of is there is something called the new councilperson training, which is down in Phoenix. It's highly recommended if you are elected to serve the town. Gives you all the ins and outs because we are a volunteer council, but there are things that if you do, you can be held personally liable. So this is a hot seat for sure. And I have been called a glutton for punishment by more than one of my residents because I just keep standing up for my town. So again, I will try as hard as I can to keep Jerome moving towards the future, but not forgetting about our past. I appreciate your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Northern Arizona, thank you to all the candidates for your thoughtful participation in this forum tonight. And thank you also to the voters who submitted questions in advance of this forum. A couple of reminders before we adjourn this evening. Election day for the primary election is August 2nd. Early voting ballots were mailed out beginning July 6th. Completed ballots can be returned by mail or dropped off at an election location in your town or at the Yavapai County Elections Office. If you are registered as a non-designated independent voter, you can vote in the primary election. When you go to the polling place, you will be asked to designate which party ballot you want. If you are an active early voter, you should have received a form from the County Elections Office which allowed you to select the party ballot you wish to vote. A ballot will not be mailed to unaffiliated voters until the election office receives a form from you, the voter, indicating your ballot choice. You may also make your choice by contacting the County Elections Office by phone, email, or through the early ballot request website for Yavapai County. And with that, this candidate forum for Jerome Town Council is adjourned.